Hello, just a quick little update on Mori. So over the weekend, I wanted to I wanted to build the features that allowed you to add new items for you to remember. So if you remember this from some other video of mine that you might have seen, this basically is the UI that I came up with for viewing and adding new items to the list. So if you want to remember, a book, an idea, a place or a movie or anything like that, you could basically, click on this form here. You'd basically go in there, you'd add whatever thing you want to add, and then it would be listed here. Very basic, very straightforward, right? I decided to use core data, and on top of that, I'm using something I'm very new to all of it, but the NSFetchedResultsController took some reading and researching here. But I did it. If we take a look at the simulator, I've got it right here. So I've got a few items here already, but the way you add more items here is you hit the little plus button. You want to remember, let's say, a movie. Let's call it the Wandering Earth. It's a movie. We hit save. It gets added to the list, and you can now forget about it because you have it written down in an app somewhere, and you'll never have to worry about what was that movie that my friend recommended, and it's there, it's ready to go. And if you remember from the last, actually no, this is something I have not added, have not shown before, but you're also able to delete items altogether, and all this is persisting through core data. I'm using the NSFetchedResultsController, which is pretty cool. It was not as, I thought it was going to be very difficult, but the whole purpose of the NSFetchedResultsController is to basically make things easier. And it's a pretty neat little tool here. So what I'm doing here is the NSFetchedResultsController works off of an NSFetch request, as you might imagine. You have to add some sorting. Now, this was a tricky bit because when I first was implementing this, I didn't realize that the sort descriptors were actually mandatory. But my app, it completely crashed if I did not include these. So I want to sort them, and so I'm sorting by the created@date that I have on the model. And then you basically just return the fetched results. And it's a pretty cool, really easy way of doing things. Something that I really like is that it has these, the delegate here basically allows you to listen in for any kind of updates that happen on the context. So you have this context, and as long as your NSFetchedResultsController is hooked up with that same context that you're working with, any insert or update or delete action will basically fire off it'll let this delegate know, hey, there was an insert action, there was an update action. You could then use that opportunity to update the view or to, basically update the table view. It's a really interesting way of working with core data, and I really like it. Something else that I thought was pretty interesting while I was working on this was this little view right here. So if you take a look, I have 8 categories here that you've got to pick. Otherwise, it won't save. So if you want to remember something, you've got to tell me what it is, or at least a category of what it is before I'll allow you to persist it. I'm still working on kind of validation and showing validation errors. But this was interesting because, first of all, this whole view here, this modal, it lives it comes from the ItemForm view controller. And I've got to make this thing actually also support editing, not just creating new items, but also editing existing items. And I haven't done that yet. I'm going to be working on that probably in the next week. But something that I thought was pretty challenging was the stack view here. And I was really having a hard time figuring out how to do it. And so originally I had everything here under this configure fields function, but it became very apparent that like I'm writing a lot of code in here, and I really want to keep my classes small. And so I wrote this this view called the category picker. And the category picker has a vertical stack view that basically holds all of these horizontal stack views. So it's one horizontal stack view, or sorry, one vertical stack view holding 4 horizontal stack views, each of them with multiple groups. So I have 4 groups that hold, you could see here, I've got, when I go down here to configure my stack views, you could see I've got category 1, I add some arranged subviews, I add the book button and the food button, and I just repeat for all of them. Luckily, this seems okay. I'm not sure, it seems like an okay thing. I wasn't sure how to come up with like a better way of doing this, but I'm sure there is. I have no idea. So I spent some time configuring this up. I configure the buttons themselves for each of them. I had a target called category tapped. So whenever you tap on the button, you'll notice that you can only have one category selected at a time. I update the title of the view controller here, and I do that by way of this, the category picker delegate. So I created a protocol that basically anyone can conform to called the category picked. And what I do is I use that here in the ItemForm VC. Anytime a category is picked, this sets the current category, and it also changes the title of the screen. And so the current category here, I need this so that I can persist the item with the correct category on it. It's pretty cool. I really liked it. I used a whole bunch of different new tools that I've really never used in a real kind of example, for at least for my app, as real as my app is going to be. I created my own button here, which something I thought was a pretty neat way of changing the background color. Whenever the is selected property is set, I change the background color's opacity to indicate that that's the button, that's the category that you selected. And I thought that was pretty cool. So again, whenever you, let's say there's some, lo-fi song that you really want to listen to, you could basically put music and you can save it. That view controller listens for those events from core data from the NSFetchedResultsController, and it just updates the table here. It's pretty neat. It's really interesting. The next thing I want to work on is the ability to actually edit these. Right now you can't. If you click on these, nothing happened. What I want to do is present basically a detail view like this that will have an edit button up here that will also bring that form up. So it'll present it modally here. When you hit save, it'll go back to the detail view and you'll see it here. And when you go back from here, you'll be able to also see the updated version on this screen as well. So I had a lot of fun building this. It's really slow, it's very basic, but it's what I got. And I've been really enjoying working with core data. The NSFetchedResultsController is super smooth. And building my own custom view for a category picker. I thought, I didn't think I was going to need to do something like this. But this little part here was pretty fun to build out because it exposed me to some more of like the UI views, properties, and kind of the way the UI stack views work. Those stack views are pretty interesting. This was pretty fun. And I had a lot of fun doing it over the weekend. So I'll be posting back again next week with another update, and maybe I'll get a few more things done. So great. All right. Well, if you have any questions about my process, any questions or any topics you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. All right.